Word. Also, I live in Morristown, New Jersey, and I love.
Oh, nice. I'm from Wayne, so that's not that far away.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where do you live now, though?
I live in Florida, Palm Beach Gardens.
Yeah. Nice. I was like, you can't live in. I don't
No.
think you could live in Wayne, really.
Too hard.
Yeah.
Too expensive and too cold.
Very, very expensive to live in New Jersey. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so I start all these episodes with just quick 9 questions. So I'll start
Sure.
with those. Do you prefer Twitter or Instagram?
It depends on what I'm going for.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I love Instagram, but if I am looking to get a message across, it's more Twitter.
I think that's fair. What was the last book you read?
Let's see. The last book I read was The Hunger Games. There was like a new prequel that came out that Suzanne Collins wrote about like President Snow's like childhood. It's actually pretty good. Yeah, it's good. If you like Hunger Games, it's like totally worth it. I enjoyed it.
Nice. What was the last podcast you listened to?
The last podcast I listened to was, someone was calling me. I thought I had Do Not Disturb on.
You're okay.
I actually listened to Barstool Sports Part of My Take this morning.
Very good. When I used to carpool with someone, that was like all they listened to. So
yeah, they were trying to figure out this whole GameStop stock situation, which I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on. But for me, I'm like not really, like I understand the financial markets a little bit, but I wouldn't go out on a limb and say like I'm very knowledgeable. So it was like a very good layman's perspective of like what's happening.
Wait, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out.
It's like, and I love what they do with their pod because you can just skip around to like what interests you and they like put the minute markers. So I just was like, oh, I want to kind of hear what they have to say about it. And it was like a little 5-minute bit that they did. It was good.
I do appreciate when you have the time marks. That's nice. What was the last show you watched?
I watched a movie last night called The Vanishing or The Vanished on Netflix. It was very suspenseful and creepy. And I was also just recently watching there's like a glass blowing competition show on Netflix.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they it's sort of like a cooking challenge show, but like it's glass blowing.
That's awesome. I am from Toledo. Yeah, I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and like the Glass City.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there's like glass blowing everywhere. So I actually will maybe check that out.
Yeah, you should. It's pretty cool.
What's your favorite tournament?
Oh, that's a tough question. If we're going majors, US Open. If we're going regular tournaments, definitely Portland can be a classic. I mean, for obvious reasons, but also for not obvious reasons.
Fair enough. Who are some of your favorite players to play a practice round with?
It's a good question. I always play a lot of my practice rounds with Tiffany Joe, and she's really funny, and it's always like lighthearted. It's never like super serious. If you're looking to like have a fun game, Jackie Concolino is always like a great person to play with because she always wants to play a match, or like it just kind of depends on like what you're looking for that day. So
nice. What is a snack you have to have when playing golf?
Beef jerky. Have to have it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have like a flavor?
No. So I was I'm kind of a Chef's Cut fanatic. It's like a specific brand, and their like original steak is so good, and that's I kind of don't really deviate from that.
Nice, love it. What is so kind of a two-parter? What's a favorite dish you like to cook for yourself, and one that you would like prefer to cook for friends?
That's kind of a tricky one. I think I prefer cooking like fish for myself, which is really strange. I don't know why. I love eating fish, but I don't ever offer to cook it for like a crowd of people. Yeah. And then if I'm cooking for friends, probably penne vodka is like my go-to because I've got it nailed down now. So like I feel comfortable like doing it in a crunch.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. And then lastly, what's your favorite shot to play?
I don't know if I have a favorite shot per se, but I do. It's funny when people ask me what my favorite club is, and I always answer the 6-iron,
Yeah.
which is random, but it's like my most consistent club.
So it
So
feels good.
so if I have that like distance, I'm like, yes, that's my favorite shot by far.
Love it. All right. So I saw that golf is, it's in your family.
Yeah.
Did you, well, and then I listened to the trap draw and
Oh, trap draw.
yeah, and you talked about competitive dance and I was like, wait, I love this.
Yeah.
Did you do that for a long time?
I did it for a fair amount of time. I like picked up dancing and golf kind of at like the same age. It was like winter summer thing. And then I would say there's maybe like 5 years that I did like competition.
Cool.
Yeah, which was cool. And then once I got into like the beginnings of high school, it really started getting way too time intensive, like for both, because then it was like a full year of like all of the summers needed to be spent like traveling and competing for golf, and then but that was also dance as well. Like you would go to like these camps or you would go to like competitions, and I was like, I can't do both. And my dad was just like, you're not gonna be a dancer, that's not happening. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
let's be real, that's not a practical career.
That's very fair.
I know. And I was like, oh, so I did it a little bit, but like I scaled way back once I got into high school.
Nice.
Yeah.
I kind of was similar. I mean, I don't play golf professionally, but I grew up playing golf and I danced, and then I kept doing dance through high school and did a little in college.
Yeah.
But it's like funny because I wish I would have just had like not like played golf competitively, but just like at least kept up with it.
Yeah. I like ballet was my favorite by far.
That's what I did.
I really enjoyed it. But then it was also like as you get older and you get a little bit bigger, and it's like if you're taking it super seriously, it's like then the next thing you know you're like on a diet, and it was just like all sorts of, I was like, oh, this is way too stressful.
Yeah, I'm also 5'1", so like it was just not gonna happen for me.
I know, you like everyone needs to be like a very specific like build, and there's just not a lot getting around that.
Yeah, when I heard you say that, I was like, wait, I need to know more.
Yeah.
So I find golf unique in a lot of ways, but one is that like when media talks about golf sometimes, or like they're talking about it on the broadcast, they often refer to people's amateur careers, where like I don't see that as much in other sports. Like you're not watching like an NFL game. They may talk about college a little, but they're not going to talk about like
no. No, they're not talking about your high school stats by any means.
Right. So did you always want to go to Vanderbilt, or like was it on your radar?
So it's a little bit of an interesting story how that came about. My dad plays when we lived in New Jersey, he played in this thing called the Winter League, which was a men's amateur league, and they would play in the winter months every Thursday, and they would pick like these obscure golf courses that didn't have snow on them, and they would go like play in like sub-zero conditions from like October through March. And so my dad had a friend that he played with all the time, like another amateur fellow competitor who was really good friends with the coach that ended up being the coach at Vanderbilt, but at the time was at Arizona, Greg Allen. Okay. So this guy and Greg were either like college roommates or like some random connection that they had. And, my dad was like all about me, going to get a scholarship, playing golf somewhere. So his buddy from the Winter League was like, oh, like, let me reach out to my friend who's a coach, and like, I'll put you guys in contact. Long story short, when Greg took the job at Vanderbilt, he then was like recruiting me to come take a visit. And then that's kind of how it fell into my lap in terms of getting to Vandy. Then I like really loved Nashville. I really enjoyed the team. So, and then all of it kind of just fell into place.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like you clearly hit a stride, at least a little bit.
Yeah, it took a little time, but then I got like very comfortable there, and everyone kind of like hits their stride at different points.
Yeah. It is like the whole college thing, like it was just interesting. You obviously had a lot of success. And then I'm always curious about like then watching, you watch like your win, for example, and they'll like bring up, oh, and she was at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Like it's like a funny thing to like hear about.
I know. And it took a lot of time, I think, between that point and Portland was 2018, and like my best year in college was 2010. And I really do think that like there was a lot for me to still get better at, like so much in those 8 years. A lot of it was just like physically not being that big and needing to figure out how to like either hit it further or get better at chipping and putting, like all of those things. Like I don't necessarily just have like a raw overpowering golf game. So there was definitely a learning curve at like each phase of my career, you know, leaving school, getting to Symetra Tour, then Symetra to LPGA. And that was definitely the biggest transition.
I was going to ask you, like, how did it feel to graduate from Symetra?
It felt great. And, you know, and to be fair, like the course setups and the vibe from college to Symetra was not all that different. And I felt like I belonged out there, and like I was like, I felt comfortable. And then I got to the LPGA and I was like, whoa, like not comfortable. This is crazy. And it took me some years to like get through that.
And so I am curious. So then do you mind describing or describe that feeling of feeling comfortable on tour? I feel like I like hear that. And I'm like, what does that mean, I guess?
I think it's like a very all encompassing, like it's definitely a blanket statement, but like what most people, I think they mean is like comfortable in their golf game, but also just with like the people that you're around and you're with. And, you know, there's a big intimidation factor when you get to tour and you see super accomplished players. You know, when I got out, it's like Suzanne Pedersen was dominating. You know, you have Michelle Wee, you have Inbee Park, even like, you know, Lydia Ko, like all of these players, and they're so good. And you're just like, wow, do I even belong here? Like, you know? So I think there's that level of getting comfortable in just your golf game itself.
Okay.
And then also like being friendly with those people, because if you constantly view them as like, you know, the intimidation factor, like I think it's very hard then to feel confident in yourself. Like you want them to see you as a peer and as an equal. And so then it kind of is like a two-pronged thing, I think. Golf game, but also like you have to be, you know, confident in like feeling like, you know, I belong out here with these girls, like on and off the golf course.
Yeah. So did you feel that way before your win at Cambia Portland Classic?
Definitely. Like I made some really great friendships with players out there, and players of like all, you know, top players, middle rank players, like it doesn't really matter. I kind of float all over the place. But I just think that in itself for me, like makes me feel like settled, you know, like I don't feel uncomfortable talking to anyone, but I also am like, oh, you know, I'm not going to big time anyone either. So like, I kind of like being comfortable with all of the people that I work with.
Nice. It was fun to watch your final. I watched like the final highlights recently, just to like refresh memory and stuff. And the highlights mostly included your short game and putting, which like you put on a clinic, but like, were there other parts of your game that week that you were like, this is working?
No, I mean, like I hit the ball so well the first day and I putted well. I think like I shot 62 the first round and those stats were like really good. And then I kind of was just like doing whatever the second and third day. And then the last day I putted really well, which you kind of have to. I've realized like it doesn't just like one thing doesn't do it. Like you can't just rely on one thing to win. Like you tend to have good weeks and like be consistent, but like if you are going to like be in contention and or win, like it all kind of needs to come together.
Yeah. It sounds like you have some like pretty good camaraderie on tour. Do you feel like, I was talking to somebody and they were saying like how competitive the tour is, but like
it is.
You guys have like really good camaraderie too. Do you think like, does that help fuel competition, or like, what do you think?
I think it does. I mean, to me, it kind of like going back to the comfort level, like just having that, those good relationships with a majority of the players. Like, I feel like we can be competitive and it's not awkward, you know, like if you don't know someone that well, and then you're like in a very competitive setting, like let's say it's a final round and you're like going shot for shot or something like that. you know, a winner or a loser, it could be awkward when you're done if you don't really know that person, or maybe you've like, oh, I don't like them, they beat me, or like whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So at least like having that camaraderie, I think you're able to just like, okay, I'm gonna go out and do my job, but when we get done with the job, like we're still gonna be friends.
Got it. And that's so unique.
Yeah, it is. It's different than a lot of other sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't have a team, right?
Right.
You know, it's like it's different.
Yeah. So I know that you've had like some injuries and had to withdraw from some
Yeah.
20, but like what's going on in Marina's world?
Yeah, I'm still kind of on a little bit of a rehab from I had a back injury that kind of has set me back. I think a little bit more so than I realized it was going to be. I've
Mm,
never I've only withdrawn from one tournament prior to me pulling out of like everything starting in September was
got
like
it.
in 2019 I missed one event, and that's in my entire like life. I've I've never like gone to a tournament and been like I am either too sick or too injured to play. Like
Yeah.
so September, and like realizing kind of I think taking care of my back was a little bit more serious than I wanted to admit to myself. And so that was a tough kind of transitional period because I'm like, oh, I'll be back in a couple weeks. I'll be back in a couple weeks. And then I was like, I am not going to be back in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So that was a little hard, but I do feel confident in where I'm going right now in terms of like how I'm feeling health wise. And,
Okay.
you know, fingers crossed, like I'll be starting at Lake Nona. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
excited.
I do want to quickly talk about the Solheim Cup.
Sure. Of course.
Was it a goal of yours to get on the team in 2019?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It was sort of a little mini goal, I think, for 17. I was kind of out of it a little bit
Okay.
in terms of like, I mean, obviously I wasn't on the team, but I thought maybe like I would get some looks but I didn't. And I think that kind of like little fire under my butt. And I was like, you know what? I want to get on this team. Like it definitely like don't want to have to depend on being picked. I mean, it's great if you are picked, but at the end of the day, like why would you take a chance on someone who has never played, you know? So like
Sure.
I have to get on the team myself and like earn that myself and like not have the pressure of okay, we're picking you, but you have no experience and like you better get out there and kick some ass because otherwise it's like you know, it's a bit of a disappointment if you don't.
Yeah, you have to prove yourself.
Kind of. So I think like that was a little bit of an objective to just be like, let's get on this team and go out there and do your thing. And you've earned being out there. Like there's going to be no questions about that. So I think that kind of like pushed me for 19. And it's definitely like a big thing for 21. Like I would love to be back.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it like to represent Team USA, but like foreign soil?
It was cool. I mean,
Yeah.
again, first and only experience. So I don't have anything else to benchmark it off of,
Sure.
but there was so many people there, which was really cool. And I know it wasn't our home turf, but everyone was just, I think, really excited to just watch a golf in that format. And I'm like, I can only imagine what Toledo's going to be like.
I'm sitting in second Virtus right now. We're very excited.
Yes. Yeah, I
know. So yeah, I'm pumped. I mean, I think it's gonna be awesome. I like what a cool way to like welcome back like golf in a big way.
I know.
So yeah, I'm pumped.
It's gonna be great. And I think like Solheim and Ryder Cup are kind of close in time.
Yep.
So like it's just gonna be like team golf madness. It's gonna be good.
I love it. Yeah. It's great for the sport and
oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. So I appreciate like your genuine presence on social. I think there's like a lot of pieces. There's a lot of stories.
It's a little too genuine.
No, I think it's great. I think it's necessary. I think it also just like it allows people to get to know athletes better, which is like something that didn't exist a while ago.
I know, this is true.
Yeah, but something I also like really appreciate is like you seem very in tune to what's going on in the world of golf.
Yeah, I watch a lot of golf. No, I watch a lot of golf. I watch I mean, to be perfectly frank, I watch more men's golf than I do women's. And I think that's just because I'm playing on tour. Like it gets a little monotonous. Like if I have friends that are playing well, like I'll definitely be tuning in. But I just genuinely like watching the sport. And so I think it does keep me like a little bit more in tune with what's going on in the golf world itself.
Yeah. And at what was there like a certain moment or a certain thing that happened where you were like, I need to like speak up about what's going on in my sport?
There's been a few times, like what happened with like with the US Open coverage for the second day with Golf Channel NBC, like that really ticked me off. And like I think because I wasn't playing and I was actually sitting and watching, I was just like, what the heck is going on? Like
Sure.
I am just feeling whatever anyone else is feeling in terms of trying to watch this golf tournament right now. So that kind of like sparked me a little
Yeah.
bit. There's been a couple things along the way where I feel like I have a tendency to just kind of like maybe shed a little bit of perspective on, you know, not everything is the same between the men's game and the women's game.
Right.
And I think that that really just kind of needs to be like reminded that they're different, but they're both really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I thought it was cool over the weekend when like Larry Fitzgerald was like saying like it was like one of the cool
I know
sports moments you've been a part of.
Yeah, I mean, and it was like because he played when Jessica shot 60, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to just watch that is like freaking unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had like a front row seat and just like
I know.
so fun.
And it's great to have him like as a voice for that because he has such a huge platform and he's like his outreach is incredible. So, you know, it's good to just get a little bit more people like advocates for us that are not necessarily ourselves, you know, other athletes, other sports. It's just a good way to like break through some of the confines of like what our typical audience is and like trying to get a few more people watching.
I was listening to like the Mike Wan interview on No Laying Up, and he was talking about how like one of the LPGA players was playing in the Olympics and she was like stretching alongside like a track star or something.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
remember
incredible.
who. And the guy was like giving her all these like tips for like working out and stuff. And she like went over to Mike after and was like, who was that? How cool is it that like
I know
women's golf is like elevated to the Olympics?
I know it's awesome. And I think it just needs to keep getting elevated even higher. And it's just it's come a long way. It has.
Yeah.
Like I definitely get nitpicky about like where it is now, but when you really look at the total element of like where it started and where we are now, it is not even a comparison, like how much the game has grown.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I'm of the mindset like you have to keep speaking up or nothing changes. So.
Oh no, I know, and I'm never gonna not continue to say how I feel about it. But I sometimes need to take a step back and be like, okay, it's really not as bad as I am like imagining it is in my head. Sure. But still, you want to make some progress.
Yeah, and you live it every day. I think that's the other thing. So
yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask you when we talked about the Olympics. Is that a goal of yours at all, or value the Olympics?
Yeah, it really like it was definitely a goal. And it still kind of is a goal. It's going to be a little bit hard now because I haven't been playing and I'm running out of time, you know, in terms of when the teams will be solidified and the world ranking and all that. So it's a very stretched goal. I think if I work on like my other things, like maybe it would happen, but I'm not going to. I mean, it just is what it is. It's hard.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love to be there, but I mean, it's not that simple.
Right. If you could be commissioner, what would be your first order of business?
Oh, that's a tough question. Honestly, I would just like want to have a huge sit down with Golf Channel and NBC and be like, what are we doing, guys? Like, I mean, I know that is our platform and that's great, but I just think that we can put together some more like coverage in the sense of like, we need you to see more golf.
Yeah.
And I think that that's doable. I think when you sit down and you watch and you compare the men's versus the women's, I just don't think you see as many shots in our coverage. And I think that will change how people look at our game and keep their interest if they just have more at their disposal. I mean, people's attention spans are so short. And if you're not like giving them, you know, one shot after another, it's it can be pretty boring to watch. So, you know, you have to just keep the excitement level up. And I think that would be one thing to try and figure out, like, how do we present this with a little bit more just energy, I guess, is like how I would describe it.
Energy is a good word for it. I also think like greatness, because
I mean, there's so much good golf out there, and it's like
yes.
half of the shots are like not ever seen. And that's a bummer, you know? It's like we could do so much more with that too. Like you have more access than on your social platforms because you have more things to, you know, whether you're posting stories or actual posts of like shots of the day or whatever it is. Like if you don't have all of that content, it's like very hard to keep creating new things and keep it interesting. And so I really do think it like that is like a stemming point, like where, or an origin point where you need to like look at that. And I think it just kind of can help work on a lot of things if we just have more golf to view.
What did you study in school?
I was a communications major.
Yeah, I was like, you sound like a communications major. I mean, I was too, so it's fine.
I don't even know if like that. I think it's just being out there now and like looking at what we're doing on the course and then looking at what we're doing on television versus that. It's a disconnect.
Yeah. And yes.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like to me, it's cool that you are like, you're able to notice it and you're able to articulate that, like, that's the problem.
Yeah. And I think this like
not easy for everyone.
No, and this honestly, this injury has probably allowed me to watch a lot more golf, you know, tuning into my own players essentially more than I ever have. So I definitely am seeing it and I'm like, oh man, this like we need to work on this.
Yeah. Well, the last question I ask everybody who comes on the podcast is just, what advice do you have for women who want to pick up golf?
I think that at the end of the day, you're gonna do a lot harder things in life than pick up a golf club, and you shouldn't be scared to do it because it's not that bad. And I think a lot of people are fearful of it for so many reasons, and maybe they don't want to be bad at it and go out and play, especially if it's in a work environment.
Sure.
But there are scarier things in the world, and it's really like once you get the hang of it a little bit, it's actually a lot of fun, and it's just not, you shouldn't be afraid of it.
No. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. That was great.
Thank you.